and I'm actually a master's student in DCU at the moment, where I'm focusing on chemistry, but particularly looking at citizen science. So I do have a little PowerPoint I can share with a bit of background on my project and things like that, if I'm able to. I'm not sure. I think there's a problem, so maybe it's not quite working. I'm not sure. But just as an introduction, I'm working as part of a project which is called Stardust. So Stardust is looking at the development of an ultra-sensitive optical sensor system. And then we're kind of focusing on looking at the impact of hydroclimatic events and how that impacts our water quality. So particularly I'm looking at pesticides. So let me try and share my PowerPoint if I can. Let's see if it works. I hope so. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, as I said, I'm working on Stardust. So with that comes the Waterblitz. So we're hosting that this year. So what are we looking for? So we're looking for select compounds of concern that are infiltrating our Irish surface water bodies. So the compounds of interest are mainly pesticides and mobile and toxic chemicals, mobile persistent chemicals particularly, and then we're running the blitz in order to provide a snapshot of the position that these chemicals are within our waterways, and also kind of identifying key areas of concern that maybe will need extra monitoring. So as I said, for Stardust, I'm mostly focusing on pesticides as my concern. So pesticides will enhance our crop yield, but they're also extremely detrimental to water quality as they have a massively negative effect on our ecosystems. So that can decrease our biodiversity and cause harmful effects for the water quality. So they're one of the main risk factors that are affecting ecosystems in streams and rivers across Ireland. So due to the absence of the large scale data for this, it means that we need to kind of upscale how we're monitoring pesticides in our waterways. So along with that, we're also looking at PMT and VPVM chemicals. So these are persistent, which means that they don't degrade in the environment. They're also mobile, which means that they can be transported throughout the environment. And there's a variety of different sources from which they can come from. So you're looking at things like agriculture, pharmaceuticals, chemical production, wastewater, and pretty much like a lot of daily kind of used things. So these are extremely dangerous. So particularly when we're looking at pathways, so you have like point source, which is direct pollution, and then you have diffuse sources. So that's your things like your runoff and deposition. And then due to the nature of water being reused, it means that these compounds are being like kind of recycled throughout our water, and that's what creates this sort of very negative pathway. So as I said, to target this as part of my work, I'm hosting the Waterblitz. So this is taking place over 3 days at the end of this month. And so far we have 140 volunteers across Ireland taking part in the Blitz, and then another 50 in Denmark, which is a partner on my project as part of Stardust. So these are including things like tidy towns groups like yourselves, wildlife protection associations, angler groups, and then also just some individuals who have taken it upon themselves for their own kind of interests and concern for their water bodies. So we've kind of put it that it's groups of 5 per each group, because we want to make sure that we have a nice geographical spread when the kits come back, and that will allow us to kind of assess the quality of water across Ireland and not just in very like concentrated areas. So how are we collecting our data? So when the citizens actually get to the site, they will have the kits with them, which I'm going to show you in a second. And then also there's a little QR code on the protocol that the citizens have. So that QR code can be scanned, and that brings them to a GIS sheet. And on the GIS sheet, you can actually take a snapshot of the river that you're at, or the stream, whichever water body you're choosing. And that will collect the kind of GIS relevant data. So exactly your location, your time, and everything like that, so that when we get it back, we can kind of map your findings with your exact location. So yeah, as I said, part of my work has been the creation of a new toolkit because I wanted to kind of pick something that was going to target pesticides. So from that, I established the CS Hydro. So the CS Hydro works off the premise of solid phase extraction. So it's these little cartridges that have a sorbent inside, And I've also created like a filtering system, and then you push it through a syringe once the water's been filtered with the cell strainer, and then you collect the little sorbent, and that's sent back to DCU, where we do SPE and then LCMS, both in lab, and then we can kind of get our results of the pesticides that are present in the water that's been tested. That's just kind of a step-by-step on the protocol for that. So from a more practical standpoint, what are you getting when you sign up? So we have these sampling kit boxes. We're getting things like your gloves, LDPE bags, the sampling protocols, the blanks, the ropes, and then the actual CS Hydro kit. So when you look inside the CS Hydro, as I said there, we have it's sort of a 4-step approach. So I wanted to look at filtering it. So to filter it, I use a 500 ml sampling tube and then a little cell strainer or filter, and you pour your water from the sample you've just taken with your grab sample through that, and then you connect your little your syringe to your SPE cartridge, pour the water through, push it through, and then you have a little cap on the top and the bottom, and that can be sent back to us. But for environmental reasons, we're asking everybody to send everything back because the plastic can be reused in our labs for other experiments. So we don't want to have excessive wastage on that front. So yeah, just quickly, as I said, we get an SOP, and that will have a very clear like step-by-step of everything from the very beginning, the safety, the whole way through. As I said, there's also a grab sample being taken, and the results for the persistent mobile chemicals will be taken from the grab samples. So we're using those for the analysis for that. And then the CS Hydro for the pesticide analysis, but they're both analysed the same way once they get to the lab. So that's just a little run through of that and the kind of sampling approach, but it's just taking a regular grab sample, which I'm sure you're probably all familiar with at Rivers. And then from that, you're looking at taking the CS Hydro test kit to use. So there you can see we're filtering it. And then once you have the filter, you're going to want to attach your syringe, remove the parts, pour your water in, and then everything can get sent back. So it's a nice, simple process, and we've kind of been trialing it for the last few months, and it's got really nice recovery results as well for the pesticides, so that's great. And then as part of the Blitz, we wanted to make sure that citizens were going to be really engaged. So for that, we've set up online resources. So we've provided citizens with a YouTube channel that has a video for what's inside the kits, how to take a sample, how to use the CS Hydro in detail. And then that's a constant resource that they can have on site. We've also provided the QR code for the YouTube onto the protocol sheet. So if people want to kind of revise it before they take their sample, they have a visual aid, which is always nice. And then, as I said, for collecting the numbers, we've been just using a Google form because it just kind of worked out to be the best for us. And then we got people to kind of submit how many kits they wanted. And from there, we've been just working off of those numbers. And then just a quick one on the lab analysis. As I said before, we use SPE or solid phase extraction. So as you can see here, there's kind of the 4 different steps. So with the CS Hydro kit, we're skipping this step in lab because you guys are doing it on the field. But then for the grab sample, all these steps are done. And then they both go through analysis for LCMS. So most importantly, we kind of have to think about how we wanted to share the results of this Blitz, because we're going to hopefully get really impactful and really robust findings, especially given the volume of people that have signed up. So we want to make sure that when we're sharing our results, we're doing it in a really impactful way. So from that, we've kind of decided to follow the system of a GIS map, where we're hoping to collect the data, group it together in little points like you can see here as an example, and then people can actually click their location, because their location is going to have the same tag as is on their bag and their bottle, and then they can see the exact results that they obtained in their area. So this will also kind of link in with DCU's larger plan of generating a database for like more in-depth results to be stored on. So that's for like all of our data management for citizen science moving forward. And also we want to create something that's, you know, really like organized and makes the citizens be able to access their data, which is really important because, you know, they've gone out and tested the water. They're going to want to know exactly kind of what we found from their results. or from their work. So that's kind of where we're going with that. And then, as I said before, there's a partner in Denmark on my project, and they're hoping to present their results at Science Week, which is in April for them. So that will be really nice. So that's kind of everything about the Blitz. It's taking place on the 26th to the 28th of September this year, but we have 140 signups so far, and we're kind of full with the signups at the moment. But we are planning on hosting kind of part 2 to this after there's been kind of heavy rainfall, so more wintry months, so that we can compare, you know, the negative impact that has had on agricultural runoff, and potentially see a rise in agricultural runoffs, pesticides, sort of like how much is in it, and then we can compare between before and after. So that's where we're at with the Blitz at the moment in DCU. Obviously, as I said, we do have quite a high volume of signups at the moment, but we are planning on hosting more citizen science events in the future. So it'll be really great if you guys wanted to become involved. Just pop me an email, and I'm more than happy to give some more information if you want. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Chloe. That was a really in-depth presentation, and it certainly gave everyone, I think, a real insight into the quality and you know, the way that you're doing the testing. So do you mind if anybody has any questions? If you like,
yeah, that would be great. Ask away.
Does anyone have any questions for Chloe? Trish?
Yeah, hi Chloe. Thanks a million for that. That was really interesting. I was just wondering about, have you any specific criteria for choosing your sampling sites?
Yeah, so what we've kind of said to people at the moment is to pick a site that they will like frequent. So if they walk by it, if it's on their walk or anything. But in terms of specific sites, obviously it's nice if we can get one that's like closer to an agricultural site or something like that, because then you have a higher chance of there being runoff. But for just like the average citizen taking part in it, we didn't want to kind of pressure them into picking something that's going to have an attachment. But ideally, I think we would see the best results if it was a location that was going to be maybe like beside a sewage tank or something, or if there was an agricultural runoff or something like that that you knew about. We've also kind of said to people, if there's areas of concern to them in their local area, to pick those areas, because we probably yield best results from them, and probably, well, best, but also maybe most concerning. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's great. I'm working in a farming scheme at the moment, so I just was thinking about farmers that might be interested as well. You know, it's because some of them, you know, the way the National Biodiversity Data Centre were doing moth trapping on farms. We got a few farms signed up to that, and those farmers are really interested. I don't know how happy they would be to be monitored this way, but you know, some of them possibly would, you know, so it'd be very interesting. So thanks a million.
Thanks for your question.
Trish, anybody else have a question?
I don't know, is my microphone on or off?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how to put that handy up. I was wondering about the age. There is a friend of mine has a group of homeschoolers. And I was wondering, what would you need to be 18 plus, or can you be younger if you are being supervised?
Yeah, so for this one, the actual participants themselves have to be 18 plus. But I think if you wanted a kit for the supervisor to do it and them to watch, that would be totally okay as well. It's just we don't want under 18s actually like carrying it. Yeah. But okay. if you wanted a kit for them to kind of watch it being used, that's totally fine. Yeah.
So then one emails you and requests a kit, is it?
Yeah. Just throw me in.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
That's a great question, and it maybe opens for you know, a future project working with school children. You know, maybe produce those kind of resources. Obviously, we understand, you know, the option with because under 18s need to be supervised, but you know, and that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you about this with the Waterblitz. I'm going to go on to talk briefly about Big River Watch, but you know, I'd be interested in your insights and your reflections in terms of the kind of social science, I suppose, that goes around these type of projects when it comes to citizen science, for giving people a way to participate in river health and river science. How important has that been to the project?
Yeah, that has actually been really, really important, especially from my end as well. As part of my master's, it is an area that I'm looking into. The motives and what kind of motivates people to want to look at these things. So to kind of cover that for the Blitz, we've actually created a survey that will be sent out afterwards where people can kind of give their feedback, what motivated them to do it, and that type of thing, because it's really interesting to see as well, like as I said before, what's driving people to become involved and how can we kind of increase that interest is really important. But yeah, we've kind of tackled that part for the moment with a sort of survey where people can give their thoughts, give their feedback, and then we have like a series of questions like, what do you think is, you know, most detrimental to river water in your area? Is it like agriculture? We've given them like options and boxes to type in what they think. And then also on the GIS sheet, we've allowed for them to say if they see any visible areas of contamination. So if they're seeing like litter in their water and things like that, because that'll just help us when we're kind of framing the overall picture of the quality of the water. When we get the data back, we can say, okay, this person also seen litter in their water. This person thought it was clean from, you know, where they were standing, kind of thing. So yeah, it's been important to kind of consider not just the science behind it, but also what motivates somebody to be interested in that. It's been really important.
And that always comes back to that thing, you know, if people can see it and they care about it, then that's how you advocate change within it. And I just want to check if anybody has any other questions. I have one more question just to ask. If anyone else has anything they want to ask Chloe before we quickly do a quick run through on Big River Watch. Okay, Chloe, the last question, and you know, thank you for your knowledge and so your great presentation there. It's certainly given us a lot to think about. You know, you've explained, and that, you know, a great success on your behalf to have already recruited the amount of people that you need for this study and for the upcoming study, and it shows the level of interest. But what I wanted to ask you was, you know, for a group like us who are involved in the water environment and conservation and have this kind of access, what can we do to support your future projects? Is, you know, what's the best way of getting in touch? Is there any way, you know, we can support your future projects?
Yeah, it'd be great to have you guys support in the future, because as I said, we are planning on kind of building on this. Even with the data collection system, we really want to make citizen science more kind of a robust approach, because it lets us get data from much larger areas than we would do if we were to sample ourselves. So that's been really great. We do have an email address just for the Blitz, and I can share that with you after this if you want to share it around. So then I can just contact you if you're happy enough to be kind of logged as, you know, contacts for us for future events. I can make sure I email you those and include you in that. And also just moving forward, like kind of just sharing the news of it on social media or around your groups and things like that is really, really important to just get people involved. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I think there's a good opportunity for two-way dialogue, because, you know, a lot of the groups here actually have a lot of experience in terms of delivering citizen science, and you know, they know on the ground what people's motivations are and how to get them involved. So I think there's an opportunity here for collaborative work, you know, that supports what everybody's doing. So that's brilliant. If you wouldn't mind just dropping your email into the chat, and if anybody wants to get in touch with Chloe about this upcoming Blitz or any future work, please drop her an email, let her know where you're located, what you're doing, and see if there's any opportunities then in collaboration. That would be fantastic. And Chloe, if you wouldn't mind, if you stop sharing your screen, I'm going to share some very quick information about Big River Watch. So conveniently, these two projects are kind of coming together at the same time. So I think most of the people on the group are already aware of what we do in terms of Big River Watch, and the timing on it is good because we are starting it tomorrow. So I'm going to share with you a presentation on Big River Watch. Hopefully you can see this. So yes, I suppose in concert with what Chloe was talking about, while her work is very much based on water testing. Big River Watch, I suppose, is more for citizen science, where we like to joke you don't have to get your feet wet. So tomorrow, or anything wet really, because you can just go along and do this at your leisure. Big River Watch starts tomorrow. It's our second survey of the year. So again, due to the very hot summer and the hot and dry spring and summer that we've had this year, again, as Chloe was noting, it gives us a great opportunity to compare different circumstances. So Big River Watch, for those who haven't taken part before, very simple survey that we run every year, which is app-based. As I said, starting tomorrow, and it runs through to the 25th of September. Although in saying that, the app is open all year, and if you are somewhere and you see something that you think that is noteworthy, you can upload it to the app, and then it goes onto the map at any time of the year. We just happen to use these 2 periods because it's a good way to focus people's attention, and it gives us seasonal sampling data. So as you can see, it's really easy survey. Anybody can take part. It's a citizen survey. And what we're trying to do is fill the data gaps, because as we know, in terms of landscape scale, the more data that we can get, the better. And that's one of the more difficult aspects of the work that we do, is gathering that data. So encouraging as much citizen science as possible through Big River Watch, and as we've heard there with Waterblitz, is really important in terms of both engaging the public and also gathering valuable data that informs our work. So really, really simple if you want to try it yourself. And we're also encouraging people to share the information, share it on your social media, share it with your friends and family, share it within your groups, your community groups. Particularly interested in anybody who's doing wild swimming or who's doing water sports. Obviously, water quality in those spots are particularly important, and it's something that we're going to be focusing on coming up over the next year. So if you yourself do that, or you're part of any of those groups, or know anybody who does partake in sports, water-based sports, we would love them to do the Big River Watch, because they're often in parts of the river that other people aren't. And again, those are areas which are difficult to gather data. Really, again, very, very simple. You just go along depending on what system that you're using. The app is free, easy to download from the Apple Store or on Google Play. You'll get all the information you need on that. It's a guided survey, so it will also log your location. There's a series of questions you'll be asked to answer, and you can also upload some photographs of what you can see as well. And then once you have uploaded your data, as again Chloe mentioned, the dots on the map are always really useful because again people can see how their participation is actually going live onto the data map. There's a link there, and again we'll share this in the chat. And I think last week, I was off last week, but I think Shireen sent out a pack to iCatch members with a lot of this information in it, including these media cards to share on social media. We can reshare those. If anybody didn't receive those, just let us know and we'll share those cards with you. So yes, the data then, once you can see the dots appear on the map, which I'll show you in a second here. And then the data is available to the public, so you can click in and get an analysis of the data and all the previous years. So again, you get an opportunity to look at the data comparatively. So you can see there how we get the dots onto the map. And actually in May of this year, we had a real uplift in terms of the surveys that were done on the island of Ireland. You can see there the proliferation of dots compared to September 2023. Earlier this year in May, we significantly increased. I think it went up by threefold. And that data has been very useful to feed into a lot of the work that we're doing directly and work that others are doing. So again, we would really encourage you. It's really helpful. The data is really useful. Would encourage you to go out and do the surveys, try and get as many dots on the map as we can, and to spread the word. And we have our colleagues have recorded a video here, which I'm sure explains it a lot better than I can. So if you bear with me for a second.
Rivers have really felt the heat this summer.
All the hot and dry weather this summer has left river levels low, pollution building up, and our wildlife under pressure.
More than ever, our rivers need our help. Thankfully, there's a quick and easy way that we can all make a difference.
Between the 19th and the 25th of September this year, spend just 15 minutes by your local river.
Use the free Big River Watch app to tell us about water colour, barriers, and record anything else you might notice.
All of your observations from across the UK and Ireland help us understand river health and find out a little bit more about how rivers are responding to extreme weather.
So get involved in the Big River Watch and help our rivers thrive.
So that's the details for Big River Watch, and we are hoping that you can share what's going on with the app and also maybe do some of the surveys yourself. So I think with a combination of the Waterblitz that we have and Big River Watch, the island of Ireland's rivers should be well tested and watched over the next few weeks. So does anybody have any questions about Big River Watch? I'm going to also share in the chat here. Hopefully you can download some media cards if you wanted to share those on social media. Roy?
There's a group on YouTube,